dismantling of both communities was happening at the same time. And the communities did not know that. The bulldozing of Africville and the bulldozing and displacement of Hogan's Alley was happening at the same time, coast to coast in Canada, based off of the same funding and based off of the racist policies from municipalities and, you know, federal government, really, CMHC. Part of us not being connected also cultivated some levels of this displacement because we're being marginalized at the same time without us even knowing it. Why the meeting of Urban and Randy is so powerful and important is for that solidarity, is for that connection, but for our community coast to coast needs to be united for us to be able to build and foster the change that we want for generations.
You know, in reading the oral histories from folks that lived in that community and listening to the descendants that are still around today, such as Randy Clark, we hear that it was a community that held together and that took care of each other. You know, these were the origins of mutual aid, people looking out for one another, and that they took a lot of pride in where they lived and really celebrated each other, despite the prevailing racism and oppression that they faced in the dominant society of Vancouver. Today, Hogan's Alley is a place in transition. We are in the middle of a housing crisis in this country. We have rising number of homeless folks. We have people continuously being squeezed out of affordable housing and unable to live, work, and play in this place that they call home. And so we see an opportunity, actually, as we look ahead, for that site to be turned into a nonprofit community land trust and to kind of regenerate based on the principles and the values that Hogan's Alley community really represented, and bring that forward into the future. We're happy to know that Nora Hendricks Place is there, housing 52 people that are at risk of homelessness, and we hope to continue to build in that way, creating affordable, accessible, and inclusive housing for folks.
My people are people of Africville, Nova Scotia.
My people come from Guyana, South America. My mother was born there and immigrated to Canada in 1962 as part of the domestic worker scheme.
My grandparents moved here from England, originally from Barbados.
My people are the French-Canadian settlers from many generations, coming early on early 1600s on my mother's side, and the Malenke people from Guinea in West Africa on my father's side.
My people first came to Canada from California to Victoria and then to Salt Spring Island. Some stayed in Victoria, but a number of them moved to Salt Spring Island and were the first non-native settlers on the island in 1858.
Black people started out in Nova Scotia. 1604, Matthew da Costa came with Champlain and de Monts as an interpreter to the Mi'kmaq. We have had a presence here ever since. I tell people all the time, the only people been here longer than us are our First Nations brothers and sisters. We've been here as long as the French and as long as the English. The community was independent. Nobody in Africville at no point in time ever was on social welfare, never. Did we have a lot? No, we were dirt poor. but we cared for each other. The black men in Nova Scotia could not find work, permanent work, so they had to settle for casual work. And that casual work consisted of building the roads, building the bridges, any pickaxe and shovel work. That's what they got the blacks to do. So when my father had a temporary job, when my mother went shopping, she'd buy enough groceries to share with our neighbors whose father didn't have work. That's how we survived. There was never a door locked in Africville. You could go to anybody's house, turn the knob, and walk in, because nobody stole from each other, because we were all in the same boat. My grandmother and her generation were the property owners in Africville at the time of relocation. My grandmother was the postmistress in Africville. You know, on Saturday, she would go in town to the big post office to do her post office business. And sometimes she'd take me along with her. And we'd be walking along Gottingen Street, the main thoroughfare where the post office was. And all of a sudden, my grandmother would take my hand and pull me to the side. We'd be standing like this here because white people were walking up the sidewalk. And black people were expected to step out the way and allow them access through. That's the kind of attitude it was in Halifax. After relocation, my mother gave me money and told me, go get your hair cut. Our Cornwallis Street Baptist Church is the mother church of the African United Baptist Association that was formed in 1854. And the church is the mother church. That's where all blacks in Halifax, the Halifax area, went to church. Next door was a barber shop. So I said, hey, I'll just go in here and get my hair cut. I walked in the door and the shop became silent and all heads turned to me at the door. And the barber said to me, what do you want here? I said, oh, I just want to get my hair cut. He said, we don't cut niggers here. Go up on Creighton Street and get one of your own to cut your hair. That was the attitude of society in Halifax, white versus black. So what chance do you think that poor, uneducated, no political connections whatsoever black people had in defending their rights to remain in their community? None, absolutely none. The city used tactics, divide and conquer tactics. You and I are neighbors. The man would come in and talk to me about selling and having to move, and you got to move because if you don't move, they're going to take it. And you know what? I'm going to give you the best deal of all. I'm going to give you the best deal. But you cannot tell your neighbors about this deal, because if you do, I'll have to take it off the table. So I've been fighting, I'm tired. I give in. And I say, okay, fine. I signed the deal. I move out. The next morning at sunrise, the sun's just barely coming up over the horizon. There's a bulldozer bulldozing down my house, and the man is at the neighbor's house. You better take the deal. See, I'm telling you, it's going. You better take the deal.
My favorite memory of Hogan's Alley is the walking tour that we had yesterday, where two elders, one being Irvin Carvery from Africville and the other being Randy Clark, a former resident of Hogan's Alley, met for the first time and exchanged gifts with each other and shared memories about being part of those communities, and just how being a witness to that moment was really powerful and inspiring for the work that we need to continue to do.
The main reason, and I don't want anybody to take it personally, but the main reason why I'm here today is because of Irvin, and to meet him and to talk to him and to hear about Africville and his history there.
Meeting Randy today was special. You have a former resident of Africville meeting a former resident of Hogan's Alley. Not too often do you have an opportunity for that to come together. I said, now here's a man from Hogan's Alley. I know he knows jazz. But it's very, very exciting to be here. Like I said, I've read the history. I was just enthralled by it. I know the history of British Columbia and Governor Douglas in bringing up the Americans. And really, to save British Columbia for Canada, because it was being threatened by the Americans.
Correct.
And it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard to encourage African Americans to come, because at this time, the Western United States was really being developed as a part of the United States, and our people were afraid that slavery would come along with it. So when they were offered the position to come to Canada, they readily came, right? And this vibrant community, Salt Spring Islands in Victoria, and in Victoria, you know, as I said earlier, we have been a part of the Canadian culture and heritage forever. We built this country.
For him to come out and inspire us and to meet Randy and do a walking tour of Hogan's Alley, recognizing the shared history of racialized displacement and oppressive systems that didn't want to see Black people a part of the urban fabric of Canada, and to see the work that has gone in by everyone separately now coming together, I think it gives a sense of hope and inspiration for myself, hopefully for others, about what's possible when we dream really big.
But what we hope to do is to honor the promise we made to the community. So we're standing on the shoulders of community leaders that made Hogan's Alley what it was. We're doing this work because they did their share. And we're gonna pass on the torch to young people who are gonna carry this on. What we're doing now is that we're planting the seed. We know that young people who are born today will actually play a major role there. We need you to work on this side, to build a community, to bring back Hogan's Alley to its glory.
The lab is focused on understanding the barriers that Black communities face when it comes to housing. We are also looking to map out meaningful housing solutions as well as contribute to the national housing strategy that's upcoming, and then champion quality housing outcomes for Black people.
In terms of long-term solutions, I think we really need to focus on affordable housing, housing stock in communities, and making sure we have protection for renters, including rent caps, to make sure that people are always in housing that they can afford.
We have had some great important phases by our ancestors that have brought us to this point, and I think it's a great opportunity for us to really heal, because the trauma of the transatlantic slave trade, the trauma of colonization, it lives within us, it lives within our families, it is in the spaces we occupy, and it is that healing journey that I believe is going to really take us to our next level of power.
But still, I love my home. I've been here so long, you know, it doesn't make any difference to me. But it's the young people, they got their life to live.
Sope Oya.